Salesforce automation. I'm going to jump into some of the customization stuff as we go through this to build up fields and the stage probability mapping and the custom views, etc. as we go through this. All right, so let's go back to my first presentation very, very quickly before we get into the product. This one is actually going to go into the CRM, and weirdly enough, it doesn't have that in the title, the exact opposite of the other session. But this is actually inside the product. We're going to talk about all the modules and the fields so you can follow along in your CRM account if you would like to. So again, generation, qualification, and selling, right? That's what we're going to now implement into the product itself. Where I get my leads from, how do I track that information and qualify them, hit the convert button, take a deal through different stages, and win the sale. All right, so that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to break these up into even more detailed explanations and how it applies to CRM features, and then we will go through a demo at the very end to walk you through all this different stuff. All righty. So first, let's define what Salesforce automation is. We all know our friends over at Salesforce stole half of this word, basically, and turned it into their company name. But it is still the industry word that people use. I like to say sales automation, but that's technically not correct. So, all right. So sales, we know, as previously I mentioned, was the strategy to exchange goods, right? And when we do that, we're driving revenue, we're growing our company, and we're gaining market share. You might prioritize this differently. Maybe right now you're trying to just gain market share and you're okay with discounting the product. Later on, you've got market share. You're going to be like Apple and never discount even $1, even during Black Friday, and you're just looking to make money. So you can prioritize in whatever order you would want to, but every company is kind of doing these three things to drive sales. All right. Let's talk about automation. We throw this word around a lot. No one really knows what it means. They just say, oh, I want to automate everything. So you can automate every department of your company: accounting, sales, recruiting, HR, pretty much everything. Automation is, in my definition, it's a model of a real-life process. Because as I said before, all this stuff existed before software. We still had a business. We still took care of our customers and tracked our sales and counted our money, wrote stuff down in books and pen, paper, and all that stuff. So it all existed before. We're just trying to make it more efficient and more productive. And that's what automation is. We're using software to model that real-life process. We all know Facebook is now automating our social life, right? Before, you have to actually go up to someone, shake their hand, look at them in the eye. Now you just click and add them on Facebook, and magically you're somewhat friends, right? That's what it's doing. It's modeling your social life. So our CRM is going to model our sales process, and we do this to reduce things like human error. Error reduction: if you're writing stuff down really quickly, you might spell something wrong, you might not hear everything someone's saying, you might have different reps putting different data on the spreadsheet, and then you have 10 different spreadsheets for 10 different reps with the word Texas spelled capital T, capital X, or the word Texas, or then spelled wrong because they typed it in really quick. So the CRM is going to help you reduce all these errors with the automation tools. And hopefully, it also makes you more efficient and productive. If your CRM is slowing down your sales process, you have completely implemented everything incorrectly. So then you should sign up for a one-on-one, and we'll help you fix that. So a lot of people tell me I don't want to use a CRM because it's more work. So if you're one of those people, then clearly something is not going the right way. So make sure you sit with one of us, and we want to help you get to this efficiency and productivity level. You want to spend your time with your customers, not clicking around on your computer. So if we put these things together, Salesforce automation, it is the strategy of using software to streamline your sales process in order to drive revenue, capture your customer interactions. That's Salesforce automation. And it has to be repeatable. So as your company grows and scales, you should be able to repeat and refine this process. So with most CRMs, you're going to get these main 4 features: managing your leads, managing your accounts, tracking what's in your pipeline, and monitoring daily activity. And then in Zoho CRM, you get a few other features like some marketing automation tools, support cases, reports, forecasting, quotes, invoices, and then you can add all of those other Zoho apps to automate all the other departments. What we're going to focus on is what's on the left. So let's start with lead management. First of all, what is a lead? Now, everyone would have a different definition of this, but it's basically just an unqualified prospect. It could be a company, it could be a person. You could be B2C, B2B, B2C to B, B2B to B. I've heard so many different now types of combinations of the number 2, the letter B, and the letter C put together for different companies. So the CRM can do all of these different things using the custom modules, the custom buttons. It can actually be transformed to these different processes. We're going to focus on B2B because I think that's the majority of our customers, but it is possible to do these other processes as well. A lead will very likely have incomplete information. There's no way you're going to be able to get everything you need from a person on their first meeting that you had with them, or their initial visit to your website, or by cold calling them, or by purchasing a list. You need to finish that information to know if they're a good lead. And so that's where everything goes into those fields that you have in your CRM. And traditionally, marketing helps generate your leads, and they do convert into contacts. So remember that phrase, lead converts into contacts. We're going to continue to build on that phrase. All right, so let's go deeper into lead generation. We talked about the sources for your leads, your website, social media, campaigns, advertising, events, referrals. There are so many other things. How do you actually put this into the CRM is the question. So these are the features in the CRM that you'll be using. So you can manually enter the leads. You can generate a web form in the CRM and place it on your website. You can use the social tab to connect with Facebook and Twitter, and you can search for keywords and hashtags and Twitter handles and whatnot and turn those into leads directly from the CRM. You can select a bunch of people on a list and send them an email. You can import your list or whatever you purchased from the internet before you do your cold calls. You import that whole list into the CRM. And there's a campaigns module. The campaigns module and Zoho campaigns. So let's differentiate those two. All right. So Zoho campaigns is our email marketing tool. You can do mass emails in the CRM. So what's the difference there? If you do mass emails in the CRM, there's a limitation to how many follow-up emails you can have because they're sending directly from your email server as you've integrated your email account with us. So we have a limit on that so you don't get blocked for spam. If you want to send it through our servers and verified, then we use Zoho campaigns to send thousands of emails. Then you have the campaigns module. The campaigns module will sync all of your campaigns from Zoho campaigns. But it does more than that. You can add any sort of marketing activity into the campaigns module. So if you are at a trade show, you can add that as a campaign in the campaigns module, put the budget for the trade show, and then import your leads into the campaigns module for that trade show so they're all tagged. And then you could run a report at the very end of the quarter or the month and base it on the campaigns. You can see then you had 20 leads from your campaign, you spent $10,000 on the show, you closed 10 deals, and you made $11,000. So you made $1,000. Was it worth it or not? You can actually make that report all within the CRM. So the campaigns module is there to track any marketing activity whatsoever. Zoho campaigns is mainly for email marketing. So to create a lead, click on the leads module, hit the little plus icon, and then you get this page to fill in. This page can be completely customized. So everything on here you can remove except for two things. The lead owner, everything in our system has to have an owner attached to it, whether it's a note, a task, lead, contact, account. You have to have an owner. And by default, you will become the owner if you add that record. And then if you see anything underlined with half a red line, it's going to be a Zoho-defined mandatory field, which means you cannot make it unmandatory, if that's the opposite of mandatory. So last name has to be there. So I talked about you might not have all the information about a lead. What if you don't have their last name? What do you do? Well, you can do whatever you want. Just put something in that field. A dot, none, not available, my name, whatever you want to put in there. you have to have something in there. So when you try to import records in the CRM and you might not have everyone's last name, just put a dot or none or something in there so that it still adds the data in the lead section for you. That applies to all the modules. In the account section, you need the account name. In contacts, you need the last name again. And in potentials or deals, you'll need closing date and stage and then the deal name. All right, so that's what it should look like. In the CRM, it's up here on the top right. You click on the module. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. And you hit the plus. Let's make a custom field for this module. All right, so I'm here in the CRM and I see fax, and I haven't used a fax machine in God knows how long. So first thing I want to do is remove that ancient field. And maybe after that, I want to look at lead status, and I don't like some of these. I want to change it. And then I want to add some more information. Maybe I'm in Canada and I want to see province instead of state. So let's make some of these changes. So you can click on the setup section, and you're going to go to modules. Anytime you want to make any sort of customization change, it's more than likely going to be in this section. And you're going to roll over the module you want to edit, and you can click on layouts. If you want to rename it, you can do that here as well. So let's go to layouts. Now, we do have a multi-page layout in the CRM. We're not going to talk about that right now. Let's keep it pretty simple. But the idea of multi-page layout is so maybe different offices, different teams, they'll have different pages that they can look at for the lead section. So you might need that kind of setup. Let's look at one standard layout. So first thing I mentioned was this ancient fax field. How do I get rid of it? Well, if I roll over that, I can just hit the trash can and I can remove the field. If that field is involved in a workflow rule, it will warn you and let you know. So if you have used that field in some sort of automation, it will let you know that you probably want to turn that off or make the changes. Now, if it gets removed, it doesn't ever get deleted. It will still be here, and you can bring it back. All right. If you are customizing, every time you add fields, you can even check here on your limits and what you have available. And the different editions have different limits. So we got rid of the fax field. Now we want to make some changes to lead status. So this is the edit button. I can edit some of the existing fields. So edit properties. And I can simply just roll over one of these options and change it. If I don't want to make it pre-qualified, I can make it qualified. And it was simple as that. You can add more options. You can hit the plus button here and add options as well. All the fields have this new feature here called Tooltip. You've probably seen this a lot in TurboTax because you probably don't know what all those little things mean. There's a little question mark for every single field, and it'll tell you what it means. So we have that now in the CRM. All right, so that's how you change existing pick lists. Then you can make your own fields. So you decide what kind of field you want. And you drag and drop it over here. And it becomes a custom field. And then you can edit properties. Every single field has different types of properties. Depending if it's a pick list or a number field or a date field, you'll see different properties. So make the changes as needed. And very, very, very importantly, if you're making fields in the lead section, what's going to happen when you hit convert? It's going to go to oblivion. So you have to duplicate that field in the next section. So lead converts into contact. So you should probably at least put the field in the contact section so that when my awesome field moves over, it becomes my awesome field under contacts. If you forgot to do this, it's okay. You can go back and manually fix all of this and map it together. Okay? There is a way to do that. But if you're doing it for the first time, make sure you click on this option. If you want to, you can make it flow into different sections as well. You'll see in the CRM, if you use industry, it goes into account. If you have the email, it goes into contact. If you have the last name, it goes into contact. If you actually use the stock ticker field, it goes into account and whatnot. They're all distributed as they convert over. Now, what if you want to override that? You can do that too. Maybe you want industry to also show up on the contact. There's ways to do that. So it's very, very flexible on how the data will transfer over. All right, so now all I need to do is save my layout, and now my field will be available. So So let's go to the lead section, and let's click on plus lead. And there's my awesome field, and I can fill that in. So it's as easy as that to make these different field changes. All right, so if you want to follow along, go ahead and make up someone and make them a lead. I'm going to use Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious. He's going to be our lead. Well, he works for Furious Inc., whatever that is. All right, so we're going to use this character. I filled in some information, and I've put him in the actual demo account as well. So we can look at what a completed lead page will look like. Let's expand that a little bit. So you have all of the fields. If I need to enter more information, I can edit any field one at a time. I can hit the edit button at the top and edit the entire page at once. And we will come back to that page. All right. The next thing, now I have my lead in the system, is I need to do some lead nurturing. And lead nurturing is just providing some education so that people learn more about your product. So it could be a webinar, it could be a brochure, could be a blog, decision guides, free samples, whatever you want to use to give more information to that customer. So we have our CRM webinars every week. It's pretty easy to know the definition of that word, right? When you nurture a baby, take care of it, make sure everything's going good. That's what you're doing to your leads, making sure that they understand why your product is amazing, how it compares to the competition, why they should buy it, maybe some other customers and reviews that, that they can look at. But how do you put this all in the CRM? So to nurture your leads, you want to give them information, you can send follow-up emails. You can build workflow rules, create a new lead, it sends a workflow alert. It puts them on a mailing list. It sends multiple workflow alerts. You can put them on Zoho campaigns, newsletters, etc., and put what we call autoresponders, which will send them emails based on date intervals. And then we have a new feature called lead scoring. So you can take all the information coming in from social media, from the email analytics, etc., and actually give them a lead score. And that lead score will then be able to reflect how good of a lead it is. Lead scoring you'll see in Sales IQ and campaigns and all other products as well. So it's another way to keep track of all this nurturing data that you're sending out. So in Sales IQ, for example, you can score your leads based on how they interact with your website, what pages they went to, how long they spent on the page, so they'll get a score on their website. And then in the CRM, you can add the social media and the email analytics. So you sent an email via the workflow, they opened it, that's 5 points, right? And then you entered in 5 additional fields because you got all that information on a phone call, that's 10 points. And then that score can then reflect if that lead is worth pursuing or not. So, as I was mentioning, all of the emails you send from the CRM now have email analytics. So before we only had it through the mass emails. Now every individual email that you send, you can see when they opened it. This is like the best feature in the world. We use it every single day. Did they open the email? Forget, don't call them, right? Because they didn't open the email. Let's send them another email. But it gives you a good idea that they're actually interested because they opened it. And then it even has, it will even say clicked. So if you have a link in there or an image that they can click on, it will say that they clicked on it too. And you can run a report on that for your leads. So it's super helpful on the lead nurturing side. Everything else on the lead nurturing side, unfortunately CRM can't print brochures and make your blog for you, but we have other apps that can do that. All right, so we have our lead. Is this person the right person to follow up with? Now, hopefully you get into a point where you're getting thousands and thousands of leads, and then you can actually, ask yourself this question, if I should pick this person to spend my time or waste my time calling and calling and calling and emailing. So if you only get 3 leads a day, I'm sure you're going to maximize the potential for that lead and call them in the morning, then call them in the afternoon, then try in the evening, and then try at lunchtime. Who knows when they're free, so try every single time. That's what I tell my reps to do. Why call them every single day in the morning when if they are obviously not picking up, try the afternoon, and then try on Friday, and then try on Monday, and then try texting. You'll get them. Most people never want to say they're not interested, so you have to play this game. All right. We have to train our reps to ask the right questions. That's your job. How many people are going to be using your CRM? Sounds less salesy. Have you used a CRM before? Do you need to migrate over from another CRM? So you're going to make up these questions. 5 questions, 10 questions. It really depends on how much information you need to decide if there's a buying opportunity or not. Those questions are then inputted as notes or as fields back into the CRM. Right, so you do things like update statuses, fill in your custom fields. You can make fields mandatory, so they always fill in those fields, and then add notes. Right, so we all know our friend Dominic Toretto lives his life quarter mile at a time, so that's the note I have. Now, more importantly, when you add a note, it's going to save the date and time for you, so you don't have to do that. You have the option to add a title for every note that you add, and you can add files specifically for that note as well. And then you can even, click here, when you have a bunch of notes, you can arrange them, recent first, recent last, whatever you prefer, and that's going to be kind of like a history file for you for that customer. I recommend my reps add a note even if they send an email. They can just put send to email. That way I don't have to scroll down to the email section and then compare that to how many notes they have and what dates. It makes it a lot more confusing. So sent to email works for me, and that way I have a nice history file attached. Another way to see the history with that record is there's a timeline right here. So it will tell you all the different information that was added, all the fields that were updated, all the history that was related to that record. So that's also up. All right. So again, our very difficult question to answer: how many times do I follow up? When do I follow up? Well, that's up to you to decide. What I'm going to tell you is that you can track this information in the CRM by using the activities module. The activities module is tasks, events, and calls. And the other piece of follow-up activity, of course, besides tasks, events, and calls, is sending emails. And that's main ways we communicate with our customers. So I started the email add-on here because you can send emails from the CRM without the email integration, but you can't receive them back because we're not tied to your email server. So if you want to see those emails back in your Gmail account or in your Office 365 account, etc., then you're going to use the email add-on and integrate your email via IMAP or POP, and then it will work as an email client, just like your phone or your iPad or your computer. Let's define task, event, and call. So you don't have to use all three. We actually don't, but kind of figure out what works best in what situation. If you use Outlook before or Google Calendar, it's pretty much exactly the same thing. Task is your to-do list. It has a due date and a status. Once the status is complete, then it's considered a closed task, and it moves to closed activities. An event is going to go on the calendar, so it has a start and end time, and once the end time passes, it's considered closed. So it automatically moves to the closed activities. And one of the unique aspects of that, besides the calendar, is that you can invite customers to the event. And then the third type is the calls. If you don't have phone integration set up, probably don't really use this section to manually time all of your calls unless you're, a one-person shop. But once you have a team, you can connect your phone system. If you use Amazon or Jive or any of the other options that we have available, you can connect the calls module to that call system so that they can click to dial or receive the calls, and it automatically finds what lead or contact it belongs to, and it logs it for you automatically. And if you use it manually, you can still put call type, duration, and time. My recommendation on this is if you're not using the call integration, you probably don't need to log all of the calls as calls. Maybe you can just add them as notes instead, a little bit faster, because there's a lot more fields to add otherwise, and your sales reps might not like filling out 5 more fields for every single call manually. So either recommend integrating or just add it as a note for now and use tasks and events. Other common question is, can tasks go on the calendar? Unfortunately, they can't, so then use events, and they'll go on the calendar. One of the other unique parts of calls is that you can schedule future calls. So you can log an existing call, or you can schedule a future call. Now, why would you do that instead of logging an event as a call for tomorrow? So you can distinguish things on the calendar, because the calls will have a different icon next to it, the event will have a different icon. So it's up to you. If you want to distinguish that further, you can use either one of those options. So it's pretty flexible. Once you fill this information in, it starts showing up under open and closed activities. It starts showing up on the views. It will also show up at the very top of the lead or contact page. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So right here, this is the action items bar. So if you have a task that's upcoming or due today, it will show up right here. If you have open and closed activities, it will tell you how many that are available, and you can scroll down and you can add more events, tasks, calls right from here. A lot of people ask if they want to rearrange all this stuff here or add other information. You just have to do that, and you can unclick and drag and drop and move them around. That's as easy as that to rearrange that column. So we have a mix of tasks, events, and calls in the open and close activity section. We can see it up here as well, that we have a task. And then if we go to the main leads page, you can see tasks that are due today. The green ones will be upcoming, and red will be overdue. So the timeline, to an extent, will do that, right? It shows the call was added, then the email was sent, then the event was added, then the task was added, right? So to an extent, it does that, but there's no section in here, and I know what you're talking about, that has the full activity history. It's just because we use emails separately from activities, right? All right. Correct. So again, notes are going to show up separately, but they'll also show up on the timeline view so you can see what order everything was added in. There's also an activities module, right? So if you go there, you can filter out tasks that are due for the day or for the week, right? My open tasks. But when you click on the task, it also has a nice list over here of everything you need to do. So sometimes it's more efficient to work out of here, complete and close a task, and then move to the next one, and move to the next one, and next one. Because the information for the lead, there's a summary of information over here. I can see the timeline. I can see some information about the lead, and I can work from the activities module as well. So people who who have a lot of outbound calls to make, like our sales team, I tell them to work out of this module rather than clicking on one lead at a time, because this puts it in chronological order of the task due date and the time. So both ways to really work through all your different tasks for the day. The other thing I want to show is the calendar. Calendar is hidden up here. You can go to a day, week, or month view. You can add events directly from the calendar by clicking on it, or your current events will show up on here as well. You can drag and drop them, move them around. And this calendar does sync with Google Calendar. It syncs with the Outlook calendar. It now syncs with Office 365 calendar. It syncs with your iPhone and iCal and those other calendars as well. You just have to, if you're on iPhone, you have to enable this CalDAV sync, and that's the protocol for the phone to do your iPhone calendar sync. So there's all different ways to get this calendar set up. I know all of us have so many different calendars at this point, so we just want to make them all sync. So if that's a question you have, ask one of us. We can make all the different calendars communicate with each other, and so that everything is on point. All right, that's the activity section. So we're assuming we qualified our lead. We gathered the information, we filled in the fields, we filled in notes, and we saw a buying signal. How do you know there's a buying signal? Well, the same way we're going to track our customer through a sales process, the buyer is going through a buyer's process themselves, right? Their awareness, consideration, decision, and loyalty is basically those 4 stages. So the awareness phase is usually when you're generating the lead and initially talking to them, they're kind of getting aware of your product. Then they're considering the product when you're qualifying them. Then they're making their decision as you try to sell to them, and then you're going to support them and hopefully build loyalty. So think of, as you're going through your sales cycle, think of what's going on in their head. Are they at the awareness phase, consideration phase, or the purchase phase themselves? And you kind of want to match those up with your sales process as well. So at the consideration or awareness phase, you might see some buying signals. So as I mentioned earlier, it could be asking for a quote or a demo, or a trial, a sample. You have to kind of figure out what a buying signal is at your company, and then you hit the convert button. When you hit the convert button, the lead is going to convert into a contact. I say that because that's exactly where most of the information flows, and the account gets added based on the company name. right? So that's how I want everyone to kind of think. So it's a person, usually a lead, and that becomes another person, your contact. The company that they work for is now going to be generated as the account in the CRM. Then you can add multiple contacts to that account, and then you're going to track your sale in, if you just signed up recently, it's called the deal section. If you signed up a few months ago or before, it's called the potential section. The deal section is the sale that you're tracking. That's how you're going to make money. That's how you know what's in your pipeline. That's how you know who your best sales rep is. It's all in that section. So you need to be using that section. It's like the main thing in the CRM that you want to be using to track your sales, right? So we have good old Dominic Toretto. We convert him into an account and a contact. And then we are going to continue to follow up and track sales stages and make money and close the deal. Right? So that's another way of looking at this exact same process. Lead converts to contact. The account is added based on the company name, and then you track the sale through the deal section. When you convert a lead, you're going to create an account and a contact. If you left the company name blank, you're only going to create a contact. But hey, company name is required. What do I do? So let's go back to the customization section. I'm going to click on setup, back to modules, back to leads, back to layouts, back to our layout that we want to edit. Now, if you are a business to consumer or B2C, all you have to do is just mark this as not required. When you first sign up for the CRM, it's forcing you to put a company name, but you don't have to. All you have to do is uncheck this box, and now it's not required. So the problem with that is they don't have to fill it in. So if you are B2B, then keep it as required. But otherwise, you don't have to. And that way, you can still convert the lead. So there is no company name. This just becomes a contact. At this point, we also have a duplicate check. So if there are other accounts with the same name or other contacts with the same name or email, it will let you know, and you can merge them together or delete the previous record. And it will tell you right here. For those of you who have already created fields in other sections and forgot to map lead to contact and fields are maybe possibly disappearing, this is the link to the conversion mapping. And here you can fix these issues and manually map all the fields back together as the way they should be. So I'll click on this to show you what I mean. So if you go to the conversion mapping, you can see here how things move along in the system. So a lead's city is going to become the account's billing city and the contact's mailing city, and it doesn't show up under deal. The description is going to carry all the way across. Lead status disappears. Lead source goes to deal as well. So you can manually override what is happening here. The way to do that, though, is to build the custom fields first, and then you're going to come over here, and it's going to know that that field exists, and then you can map it yourself. All right, so that's how you can fix that with custom fields or override anything existing on the mapping during the conversion process. So mass convert, I have two people here from HealthNet, so I can click on both, and then I hit on these. So the menu disappears, right, unless I click on something. There it's back, and then go here and click mass convert. Yep. All right. So we have the option to create a deal for this account. So going back to our sales process, you might not be at a point where you need to start tracking the deal just yet, but you want to hit the convert button because you recognize the buying signal. So, or whatever criteria that you set for the convert button. So that's why we give you an option to start tracking the deal or not. If you do decide to create the deal or the potential, it's going to default the account name as the deal name. So you can override that and name it whatever you want. And then if you want to, you can put the amount. But more importantly, you're going to see that it's going to force you to put the stage, and it's going to force you to put the closing date. Now, these can both be changed during the sales process, but you have to put some sort of estimated closing date in there at the time of conversion. The other fields are optional. So if you have mandatory fields in the deal section and you're going to convert a lead, that mandatory field is going to show up right here because it can't create the deal otherwise. All right, at this point, you can also change the owner. So if you have a lead development team and an account management team, you want to change ownership, you can manually change the owner right here as well. There's ways to automate this as well, but if you would like to, you can change the owner here. Let's go ahead and convert. It's going to create 3 records. right? And you can't go backwards. So once the lead becomes a contact, can't go backwards. You have to delete it and recreate it back as a lead. To see what leads were converted, there is a report, but there's also a view. And it tells you which leads were converted. So that's a way just so you know what was converted. And again, there's a reports available too. So let's go into our contact and we'll start from there. All right. So let's define the other modules. Account is either a company or an organization that your contact or client belongs to. The contact works at the account or is a part of that organization or that company. That's how we define it, right? So that's the relationship. So you can have one account, you can have multiple contacts. You can also have a parent account and a child account and then multiple contacts. So there's a hierarchy available. So first we're going to cover adding multiple contacts to the same account. So if you need to do that, you're going to go back to the account page. Once you've converted, you can click on the account name, goes back to the account page. And here I can see there's one contact. So I want to add another one. I can do so here, right? So we are going to add Luke Hobbs and hit save. And now we've got two contacts, right? And if we go up here to the top, it also has two contacts related to the same account. So that's one thing you can do. The next thing you can do is the account hierarchy. So we call it parent and member accounts, but you can also think of it as parent to child accounts. So if you have like a headquarters or a main location and you want to add multiple branches or a hierarchy of all the different branches, you can do so. So every account page has a parent account field. So first I can create the parent account and add it here, or I can go to member accounts and I can add the member account from here. So this would be the child account, right? So if it's Furious Inc., maybe we have Fastco, and that could be the child account, right? And then if I go here, notice here there are no contacts. The contacts belong to Furious Inc. So you can now add separate contacts for this branch or location for this particular child account, right? And if I go here, I've got the parent account field filled in. So that's how you create account hierarchy. All right, now the most important section. So we're going to sell to our account/contact. The sales opportunity, which is a more common word, is the deal or the potential section. So we can rename our modules. So if you want to rename it to opportunity, feel free to do so, because that makes more sense to you. Deal, potential, pipeline, it's all the same thing. Just name it to something you're familiar with. I'm going to use the word deal. When I have a deal to track, I'm going to be looking for certain information. How much money can I make? When is it going to close? And as a manager, where is it in the pipeline? Is it ready to close? Is it in stage 1, stage 2, stage 8? Is it closed won? Is it closed lost? I need to know where it is. So think of this section as a deal tracker, right? So it's not really the product. It can be, but it's really the tracker. It's for you to look at to see where everything is in their process. That's what this section is for. And that translates into amount, closing date, and stage. So closing date and stage is a required field. Amount you can enter in later on. So we entered that information, and then we hit our convert button. We created 3 records, and now we can ask ourselves, where is this deal in the pipeline? And to do so, I look at the sales stage, and each stage is going to be assigned a probability, right? So let's look at the sales stages and how you can customize them. So go to Dominic Toretto. I see there's a deal here. I can also see the deal over here. So it's the same thing. I can scroll down and click here. I can be at the very top of the page and click here. I can go to the deals section and find open deals and click here. So all different ways to get to the exact same record. Now that I'm here, first question was, where is it in the pipeline? Well, it's in the qualification stage. To make it go to the next stage, you can simply just click right here and it moves along. And then it moves along again. So this is where you can trigger automation, alerts, or you can train your reps to make sure they do what they need to do for each stage by creating tasks that they need to complete. That's how you know where it is in your pipeline. So we moved it along to 2 different stages. So these stages here are the ones that are pretty much out of the box. I added one called consultation. Let's go to the setup section again and click on modules. So remember, we were on the leads layout. So now we're going to go to deals layout. You can go here, or there's a quick link over here. It's the exact same thing. You can go to layouts and then edit the stage field, or if you want, just click stage probability mapping. So this is where you can edit all the stages. You simply just can overwrite the stages right here. You can overwrite the probabilities. You can add your own. You can drag and drop and rearrange them. This is what's more important. You need to know what's a pipeline stage and what's a closed stage. If it's a pipeline stage, it's going to be open, so it will show up on a pipeline report. If it's a closed stage, and like I said, you can have multiple closed stages. You could continue to do stuff with this deal even though you've already won the deal. It doesn't have to show up in your pipeline, but there's still other stages it needs to go through. So you can mark it as a closed one stage. So you can keep most of them as open, and that's how you do your stage probability mapping. All right, now you have that set up. Now since I did that, how do I quickly navigate to where I was? So if you didn't know, you can go to recent items here on the bottom right, and click right here, and it goes right back to where I left off. All right, so probability should increase as the deal moves forward in the pipeline. This funnel chart is pre-built in the CRM. If you go to report section and click on pipeline by probability, it's just going to pull everything in the deals or potential section and let you know how many there are in each probability percentage. And you could roll over this and see more information, or you can print the report out. So that's already pre-built. Let's talk about the probability to close, the expected revenue. And we're going to see that in the stage history section. So if we go down on this page to stage history, we see a whole new field called expected revenue. So it doesn't make sense if you read it literally as I'm only going to make $400 from this deal. Of course you're not. You're going to make $1,000. If you win it, you win it. You don't get partial payment and 40% win it. So if you're not familiar with what this means, you may have heard the word weighted revenue before. It's the same thing. The forecasting 101 is all about kind of weighing each deal based on a percentage to close, which you refine over time. You should know after hopefully maybe 6 months to a year what percentage to close your deals go from each stage. Like if it hits stage 2, there's a 50% chance we close the deal. Hit stage 1, a 25% chance it closes. Once you refine that and you add all of your deals together, this number is actually quite accurate because it's weighted on the percentage. That's what that means. And a lot of people don't use this section at all, but you can remove it if it's not something you want to use. But that's what it's there for. It's literally not expected revenue, it's weighted revenue. You also get the number of days in each stage from this section. It's 0 because I just updated it really, really quick, but that's what that section is doing. It's doing it by number of days. So you'll know your sales duration by number of days per stage. And then it tells you who modified it. Now, the only way to really know the weights on your stages is over time. So I don't expect you to know what percentage to put. Just put something, and then you can edit it a year later, because a year later you'll see everything from stage 2, we won about half those deals. So then at that point you can make that 50%. Now wait another 3 or 4 months, and you'll see that forecasting number is pretty close to what actually closed. So the best way to do it is just kind of play around with the numbers on a piece of paper, and you'll see how close that is. But yeah, we can do that later on. I know not a lot of people really spend time on this section. So it's probability times revenue. So it's important to note that this field, expected revenue, can be used in the forecasting module. So you can do a forecast based on revenue. You can do a forecast based on expected revenue. And you can see the difference, because the forecasting based on revenue is an all or none number. The forecasting based on expected revenue is weighted, and it's going to be a lot closer to what you actually close. So that's why I want to urge you to use this field rather than just saying, oh, it doesn't make sense, let's just move on, because that's what most people will say. All right, Closing the deal is simply just updating the field to closed won, or whatever you named it as closed won. All you have to do is click on where the thumbs up is, and it's going to verify the amount, and you win the deal. This thing down here, this is our gamification section in the CRM. There's some pre-built games in there, so it keeps telling me I'm doing a great job, which is it's a nice feeling, I guess. Even though it's my demo account, it still makes me happy. Let's go back down to the stage history. So this updated, and now I see 100% to close, so we won all of the revenue from that particular deal. All right, so what else can you see on this page? If you go down here, you can see sales summary. So I created this lead this weekend before the event, so it was 3 days ago, and the lead conversion time was 3 days, right? So that's how long it took for me to hit the convert button. Then the sales cycle duration was 2 days. Why was it 2 days? Because I put the closing date as the 19th. How long was the overall duration? It was 5 days because I added the two together. So you're getting that right on the page itself, how long the deal took to close. There's pre-built reports for this as well now. You need to go to sales metrics reports, and there's duration reports pre-built for you. So you can see who's closing deals the fastest, what lead sources are getting better conversion time. You can do conversion across your different sales reps, etc., or sales cycle. So sales cycle is just the deal stages. The lead conversion time is all the way from the beginning to the end, including the sales cycle itself. All right. So we have overall duration, lead conversion, and sales cycle duration. The three pieces put together will add up on how long the deal took to close. So that's available out of the box. The other thing you can get on this page, besides that, is the contact roles. So in this deal, we only were talking to one contact, Dominic Toretto, but we know that we had to have an unfortunate conversation with Luke Hobbs, so we can add him as another contact role. Now, you can customize this list. Let's just say he was the engineering lead. And now I have two contacts, and I've given Luke Hobbs a role, so then I can give Dominic Toretto a role. Let's go ahead and give him a decision maker role. Now I have that on the page as well. Right, so if you're working with an opportunity that has multiple people you're talking to, at least you know there are different roles in the process. And you can even see that all the way at the top here, decision maker, engineering lead. So that's another nifty tool that you can use on this page. So this page has a lot of information. You have your stages in your pipeline. You can see the amount of the deal. You can see expected revenue. You can see the stage history. You can see the duration. You can see the roles. And lastly, you can even, if you want to, you can track competitors separately by putting their strengths and weaknesses. So if a customer mentioned they like, good old, you can put everything in there and save it and put that as your competitor. So that's a good way to track that separately. You can keep track of all the competitor data as well in a report. So there's a lot of stuff you can do on one section. So that's why I definitely urge you to take maximum advantage of the deal section, because there's a lot of cool stuff you can track. So sales summary, again, on that bottom left-hand side, days spent as a lead, days spent in the sales cycle, and overall duration. All right, so we'll review. So leads are unqualified prospects. They convert into contacts, and then if they have a company attached to them, you get your account. Accounts are the organizations that your contacts are a part of. Contacts are the individuals that you are directly working with. Deals are your sales opportunities. The stages are the steps of your sales cycle. And when you close a deal, it means you have a closed sale. I'm going to show you in the report section that there are pre-built sales reports as well. If you go to deal reports and you just want to see what you've closed without having to build a report from scratch, all you have to do is run a sales report. So there's today's sales, there's sales this month, and there's salesperson's performance. So let's look at sales this month, right? And we had our one deal that we just closed from Furious Inc. So that's already pre-built. So you can just do that right now if you want to see what sales you have. The other very, very important report is this pipeline by stage or pipeline by probability. Whichever way you want to look at it, it's your sales funnel. And you can pull that up right out of the box as well. And once you have a report that's pre-built, what you can do is you can add date filters to it. So every single report has date filters for created date, modified date, last activity date. So those are all pre-built. Any other fields that you've added that are date fields will show up here. And with deals, of course, there's a deal closing date as well. So I can then filter this out just to this quarter or this month and have my report.